and he strikes me as a very charming, matter-of-fact gentleman, and I'm sure that he will delight you with his presentation. So, thank you, Chief.
Perfect. I said, I didn't know I did all those things. I said, well, somebody told me that. Welcome to the entertainment portion of today's event.
Oh, no,
you have all these wonderful speakers, and then you have this small city chief who threw a rock out there, and there's a lot of extra work now. So I'm very happy and honored to be here, to be invited to speak to you all. This is sort of a preaching to the choir, I think, so it's one of the nicer crowds I'm glad to be in front of. I'll explain in short order the Gloucester program and how it has morphed sort of into a national PARI, Police-Assisted Addiction Recovery Initiative movement. I don't have a PowerPoint. You're going to have to listen to me. So I'm told that it usually moves pretty fast, so we'll get right into it. In March of this year, we had in Gloucester we had our fourth overdose death. I was called by my assistant chief at home saying, we just lost a 26-year-old girl who, we found dead in her bathroom. Very typical, right? Dead in the bathroom. And I sat down. I said, as a chief and as a person, first as a person, I look at my two daughters and I say, "Dead for the grace of whoever you believe in." I can't say God anymore. I can't say junkie anymore. I can't even say addict anymore. I was on Facebook because we banned the word junkie in Gloucester, and we went right into addict, and people started saying, "Could you please call them addicted persons?" And I said, "Fine, and how are you differently enabled?" So we just had our fourth overdose, back to the story. We just had our fourth overdose death, and as a person, I think that kind of death, tragic, strikes you. As a professional in law enforcement, in a leadership role, you have to take some responsibility for that. You have to take some sort of stand and say, if I'm going to be responsible for public safety, what am I doing that could be done better to prevent these deaths? So I wrote a Facebook post from my house in my box of briefs. I know that's not a good picture, but I used to be skinnier. So, and it said, basically, it reiterated what the Gloucester police had always been doing, which was, look, we've had 4 deaths in the city. 4 is too many, 1 is too many. If you're not involved in drugs at all, if you're a citizen who knows nothing about drugs, please be our eyes and ears out there. Educate yourselves on this pervasive problem that we're having that's in every neighborhood, in every city, across the Commonwealth and across the country. 2, if you're a drug user, if you're an addicted person, we want to help. We don't know how, but come tell us you're addicted and we'll drive you to the hospital, basically. 3, if you were a drug dealer, someone who simply made money off the misery of others, not someone who sold to support their habit, we were, still going to do the supply side end of the work and get you off the street, get you out of the city, and prosecute you as best we could. That Facebook post got 37,000 hits. So wow. Initially I thought, okay, because I don't know anything about Facebook. And then, less about math, because I became a police officer because there was absolutely no math involved. So, and I was told that throughout my career I wouldn't have to worry about math. But, so someone put it in terms, there's 28,000 people in the city and you hit 37,000 people. And I said, oh, I get that. That's going to cause some extra work. So out of that came a community forum, which we held in May, that was set up. And during the time period between March and May, we were struggling with how to present this forum. We have a lot of services in Gloucester, probably more than a lot of cities and towns on the North Shore. We've always been very active in the addiction issue. We have, of course, a health department. We have a hospital right in town. We have a shelter. We have a Healthy Gloucester Collaborative, a high-risk task force. We have pharmacies that are very involved in the community. Healthcare professionals all over the place, and we meet a lot. So we wanted to showcase those services for people that didn't know about it. We wanted the public to come in and sit down and say, this is all the stuff we have. So if you have someone who's suffering from addiction, we want you to know that the services are here, because that's a lot of the problem, right? The people don't know where the services are. The other thing, what we struggled with as a police department is what can we do? What can we do that makes a really provocative and bold statement that would probably get me fired? Because I figured, I could probably collect half the pension now. Get a job at Shaw's. So we said, what can we do? And we batted it around in a room full of supervisors, and we said, forget it, we're just going to go for broke. And we announced on this forum a three-pronged approach that I will describe from least provocative to most provocative. And it was there wasn't, I would love to say that this was really thought out and that we crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's, but we had no clue what we were doing. None when we did this. But we said we wanted to engage the legislature in some conversation around seized assets. And when we do a criminal case against a drug dealer, we seize their assets. If they have cash, if they have a car, if they have a house in their name, anything that's paid off and they own that's worth something, we take it as proceeds from their drug sales. And when that case is adjudicated, and if the person is found guilty, the money is then turned over to be split between whatever agency headed it up in the municipalities that participated in it. So it could be a 50-50 split, it could be a 20-80 split. Again, math, if I don't add up to 100%, somebody tell me. But it's always a percentage that we get. And that fund is used in a wide variety of ways in the police department. We can buy cruisers, we can buy, we can pay for overtime for personnel, we can do drug investigations, we can do just about anything police related. But we thought that one of the interesting things that wasn't being done is there was no mandate or no requirement that a percentage of the money we get is used directly for addiction and treatment options that the police could facilitate. So we wanted to engage the legislature on that point. The second piece was nasal Narcan. We had been carrying it since 2011 as a public safety agency, the fire department also, so we were covered. When it was deregulated from prescription to sort of the Sudafed type of thing where you had to buy it, you had to get it from the pharmacy, but I'm sure you all know that. We were finding that the price disparities were crazy. So we partnered with a local pharmacy, and they said they were a small pharmacy, a family-owned pharmacy, and we said, "What can you offer for us?" So we can do $3 if you have insurance, and $140 if you don't have insurance. And we said, "No way. We're going to use our asset forfeiture money for anybody who can't afford it, and the police department will pick up the tab. Just set up an account, and anybody who walks in here and wants it, and we're going to advertise that." And the pushback we got from that was ignorant, but needed to be addressed, and it said, well, you're just giving the addicted person another chance to shoot up. It's a safety net. Now you're paying for it. And we answered that with, we're not only providing the addicted person with the medication, but we are also providing family members and loved ones of that person who have to find the person in the bathroom, unresponsive, and wait that terrifying 4 to 6 minutes. And if you've ever done that for anything, that's might as well be 4 to 6 hours. It's awful. So we said we're going to provide it to them. And the simple notion, and here is where we start to go from nice little policy to provocativeness. We made a statement that the notion that some people may exploit the fact that we were buying Narcan did not negate our responsibility in public safety to provide a life-saving drug if we had the means to do so. End of story. We in law enforcement do not get to judge anyone's life and what they do with it. We are only there to assist when the chips are down. And we've gotten away from that, systemically in law enforcement. So this was a way to bridge a gap between the police and a demographic that didn't exist before. The addicted person and the police were never on the same side of the fence. So we were telling you, we don't care what you're doing with your life, we don't want you to die. So that was the second piece. The third piece, the most provocative one, and the one that everybody talks about, the so-called Angel Initiative. I don't even know where the name came from. I gotta be honest with you, it's a great name. So we'll keep it, you know, everybody knows it by that. But I mean, we were thinking about all kinds of, like the Gloucester Initiative's Angel Program. Like, trying to do this big production out of it, and ended up just being the Angel Program. So we said in a very provocative way, if you are an addicted person and you walk into our police station from this day forward, never again, and you ask us for help, whether or not you're carrying an illegal substance, you will not be arrested for a crime. We will refuse to arrest you. Instead, we will try to facilitate help for you. And we'll do that in two ways. At the beginning of this program, we thought of two ways. Number one, we needed a commitment from the local hospital, which we got. A commitment of anyone you bring in from the police department, we will try to fast track into an assessment of care. It wasn't even a promise to provide care. It was a promise that a clinician would try to get there fast and look at the person. And we were like, okay, we'll go into that. We'll take that. And we will pair you with a member of the community who wants to volunteer. We didn't want to overcomplicate this. We didn't need a social worker, we didn't need a clinician, we didn't need a recovery advocate, we didn't need a coach. We needed someone who could sit there and metaphorically or literally hold another human being's hand while they were going through a crisis. And we needed that person to be a stranger, because we all know how family and the addicted person interact. Sometimes it's enabling, sometimes it's tough love. It's very frustrating on both sides. And we thought that if we knew at that time that the process of getting someone help was long, hours and hours and hours. So we knew if we paired them with someone who had no judgment, who had no call except to be there and be empathetic, that they were more likely to stay and wait for that treatment. So we wanted a place to take them, and we wanted a way to keep them there. And that's what we announced. And then we announced that at the forum, and it got a great response. And then we announced it on Facebook in just that way on May 4th. And the Facebook post hit 2.4 million people. Wow. And it was shared 30. Thank you very much. It was the pseudo what I just said. You'll be surprised how many times people look at me and say fabulous. So 2.4 million times across the country, shared another 30,000 times to another 40 million people in all 50 states and 61 countries. So that was not our reaction. Our reaction was shit. What did we just do? What did we just do? We have 65 cops in the city, and 61 countries are looking at this program. What are we going to do? So that was May 4th, and we announced that we were starting June 1st. We had nothing going on. We were just... But what happened? What happened is that we found that the law enforcement voice, for some reason, the conservative entity of law enforcement, entering this conversation from a different side, from not a lock up and throw away, but a compassionate, professional, non-judgmental, dignified experience with a segment of the population, gained enormous support. And it gained support in the form of treatment centers that, because of this post, called us. It gained support from pharmacies that called us. It gained support from other police departments that called us. So by June 1st, we had 17 centers across the United States offering scholarships for anybody that wasn't a Mass resident or was a Mass resident who couldn't get into a Mass program. We had two major chains, CVS and Walgreens, come to us and say, we'll offer Narcan to anybody in Gloucester for under $20 a dose, whether or not they have insurance, which was cheaper than the police department was paying for it. So we just send officers over there, just like one at a time. So now we had, you know, we started getting cocky. We said, yeah, we have treatment centers and we have pharmacies on board and we have police departments that are interested that we're ready to go.